The motion is agreed to.
Border, Customs, Excise and Tariff Processing Bill introduction.
The bill is set down for first reading forthwith. The Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Border, Customs, Excise and Tariff Processing Bill be now read a first time. At the appropriate time, I will move that the Border, Customs, Excise and Tariff Processing Bill be referred to the Government Administration Committee and that the committee reports finally to the House on or before the 16th of November 2009, and that the committee have the authority to meet at any time the House is sitting, except during oral questions, during any evening on a day which there has been a sitting of the House, and on the Friday in a week where there has been a sitting of the House, despite Standing Orders 187 and 191B and C. Sir, the bill is an omnibus bill and it amends the Customs and Excise Act 1996 and the Tariff Act 1988 and makes consequential amendments to the Goods and Services Tax Act 1985, the Finance Act 1993 No. 2 and the Finance Act 1995 No. 2. Mr Speaker, the amendments contained in the bill make improvements in the processing and administration of goods and people required under these interrelated acts. The majority of amendments relate to border processing and administration by facilitating New Zealand's international commitments or the use of new technology, while other amendments improve border processing or administration generally. The bill contains 3 sets of amendments to improve the effectiveness of the Customs and Excise Act, mainly called now the Act, and to meet government policy goals. These are amendments related to the automated passenger processing system now known as SmartGate, 6 amendments to clarify and enhance the Act, and 8 other amendments to address legislative gaps and uncertainties. Sir, in today's international travelling environment, we are faced with threats to our personal security. Those of us who travel internationally are well aware of the various security measures which we must now comply with, whether it is to protect us as far as New Zealand's biosecurity, New Zealand's community, the New Zealand community, example firearms and offensive weapons and controlled drugs, whether it's New Zealand's aviation security or New Zealand's immigration laws. These obligations on the travelling public have resulted in longer waiting and processing times at airports. So to counter this, this government has announced that low-risk Australian and New Zealand passport holders will enjoy a faster, more streamlined exit through border processing at Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch airports. As part of this, automated processing through the SmartGate system will become an option for travellers holding either an Australian or a New Zealand e-passport, that is an electronic passport. The old technology ones will not work. In reviewing the Act to take account of SmartGate, Customs officials have identified potential amendments relating to passenger interaction with the clearance process. These amendments are relatively minor. The focus of the amendments is to ensure that automated systems can be used in place of customs officers. The effect of these amendments is to allow the use of automated processing systems at the border, something which will benefit the travelling public and contribute to the government's objectives to improve the border crossing experience for trans-Tasman travellers. SmartGate, sir, will enhance the role of customs officers at the border, as frontline customs officers can now be redeployed to the secondary line where intervention with high-risk passengers occurs. I want to emphasise, Mr Speaker, that SmartGate cannot and will not be a substitute for the observation skills and the vigilance employed by trained customs officers working at the border. Mr Speaker, 6 amendments are included in the bill to clarify and enhance the Act, especially in relation to strengthening customs law enforcement capability. The amendments are that 1. Enable customs officers to search a vehicle whether it is being operated or it is unattended, and the ability to use reasonable force to gain entry to effect the search of the vehicle. 2. Create a power to arrest any person committing an offence punishable by imprisonment under the Act, whether or not that person is on a craft. 3, provide that duty on goods manufactured other than the manufacturing area becomes due immediately upon the manufacture of the goods. 4, create a new offence of making a false allegation or report to Customs that an offence has been committed knowing that the statements are not true, or making statements with intention of wasting or diverting personnel or resources. 5, enable Customs officers to utilise future technology in those provisions that relate to the detection of tampering or interference with goods, containers or packages. And 6, provide Customs with the ability to require payment of debts within the 20-day time period where Customs receives advance warning that the company has a dubious financial situation and payments by the due date will be unlikely. Mr. Speaker, the bill also includes 8 minor amendments to the Act aimed at addressing legislative gaps and uncertainties, including amendments to clarify the provisions in the Act relating to authorised persons, allow for the revocation of a Customs export delivery order in certain circumstances, allow material usually set out in the schedules of the Customs and excise regulations to be incorporated by reference, relocate the alcohol personal use exemptions from the Customs and Excise Regulations 1996 to the Act, allow the Chief Executive to nominate non-Customs officer employees to lay informations, allow for the suspension of a registered user's registration, clarify that the Chief Executive can grant further time for lodgement of an entry of goods for exporting in appropriate cases, and allow for the imposition of administrative penalties for entries containing an error or omission. So, as I said, 8 amendments, but all reasonably quite minor and really just tidying up some things in the Act which needed some clarification. So the bill contains amendments to the Tariff Act 1988, primarily to allow for faster and more efficient implementation of tariff reductions arising from our trade agreements by 1, allowing material usually set out in tariff amendment orders to be incorporated by reference, and 2, making the working tariff document maintained by the New Zealand Customs Service the legal tariff. Following the amendments to the Tariff Act, Schedule 3 of the Customs and Excise Act is replaced by an excise and excise equivalent duties table available on the internet and in hard copy. The bill, sir, also enacts a previous decision of the Cabinet to raise fuel excise duty by 3 cents a litre, effective on the 1st of October 2010. Mr. Speaker, I commend the Border Customs Excise and Tariffs Processing Bill to the House.
Members, the question is that the motion be agreed to. The Honourable Chris Carter.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to speak on behalf of the Labour Party